Welcome to Fall Rise Give, a space where we invite you to dig into the real cause of your suffering, looking at opportunities for growth with a change in your beliefs, thoughts, and actions so you can be your true self and be inspired. Join us as we explore life's ups and downs and navigate the twists and turns, sharing stories of resilience, hope, and the transformative power of giving back. Whether you're looking for a change, in recovery, or simply seeking inspiration, this podcast is your go-to for candid conversations, raw emotions, and a whole lot of heart. Tune in and discover how to fall, rise, and give back on life's extraordinary journey. Welcome to another edition of Fall Rise Give. Turn struggles into opportunities by being your true self and help others. I'm bartender Bob. That's Kumar, and we have a special guest this week. Her name is Christine. And before we started, we were talking just introductions and whatnot. And I noticed that her fingernails are all nice and sparkly. And I said that they look really great. And Christine, what did you tell me?
I said my husband picked out the colors as he was sitting beside me getting his own pedicure and manicure.
Oh, see, I've never had a manicure. I've always wanted to have a manicure, but I've never had enough guts to actually go through with it. But a pedicure, I'm telling you what, one of my most favorite things to do. Kumar, ever had a pedicure?
No, absolutely not. And don't plan on it yet, but I guess maybe I'll be changing my mind on this one.
Anyhow, let's talk a little bit about Christine. Who are you? Who are you and how are you part of this whole group, this little group that we have here?
Well, I am a friend of Bill's. Is that something
to
say?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a friend of Bill's. It's the secret code word for people to know that you're part of the secret club. Because Bill was the founder. And so like if you go on a cruise ship and you see an itinerary there and they say like this room is this and this room is this, check it out next time. You might see something that says Friends of Bill, room whatever from 3 to 4. And you'll be like, I know what that is.
You know what? I've been on 2 cruises in my life, and I saw that on both of them as the itinerary. I'm like, who in the hell is this Bill guy? Now I know.
Now you know the secret.
So you're a friend of Bill, and you're also a friend of Kumar.
Yes, I am.
Let's talk about that, because I also am a friend of Kumar. We actually grew up together, so let's talk about your friendship with Kumar.
Well, we started being co-workers. What was it? Almost 2 years ago now?
Almost 2 years ago, yeah.
I have been sober for over 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And I live my recovery out loud. And so Kumar happened to know that I was in recovery. That's not why we were friends, but just because I'm kind of like a social butterfly and chit chat with everybody. But so he made a couple comments to me, and that's the reason I live my recovery out loud, because I try to be as open as I can, because even though you would think we would all know what to do, we don't know what to do. You know, I had the gift of an intervention. So that's how I got introduced to our little program. I had a gift of intervention. My friends called my mommy up in Texas as a 38-year-old woman, and my mom shows up, and I'm like, ooh, I'm in trouble now. So had an intervention. I had a coworker who had tragically died. He was my best guy friend, and, he died from a overdose. He was 27 years old with a 10-day-old baby.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yes, it was terrible. He was a coworker, and so it really affected a lot of us. So, but I cope by doing. I'm busy, I'm doing, I'm always, if I don't have to feel those feelings, I'm good. So some of my other issues is I'm a control freak, because if everything's in order, then I'm okay. So I was busy doing and helping to get ready for this funeral, and I was a shit show. And my friends pulled me aside and said, you don't want to live your life like this. I'm like, what? I'm trying to grieve my friend, The problem was I had run out of my drug of choice, which primarily is a street drug. So, and it's a street drug that would keep me awake. I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not say. So, I had run out. So the alcohol, I was just a sloppy mess. And so my friends saw that. And this is 2 days before the funeral. And they called my mother. And my mother was on a plane the next day from Houston, all the way up to Seattle to support me for my friend's death. So, I went to work, worked like a half a day, and grabbed the flip chart boards that we were borrowing from work, because we had gotten together and made collages of our time with Garrett. You know, we wanted to showcase all the happy memories. And so I'm on my way to the funeral home to drop him off. It's about 2 p.m. by now. And of course I have my beer in the car, because at this point in time, it's just always in my car. It's just easier. It doesn't matter if it's warm. It doesn't matter if it's cold. So I pull up to the funeral home and do my little deal, you know, cover up the console with the open container, and go to get out of my car. And there's my roommate with my mother. I'm like, oh, let me go cover up the back seat too, because that's where the case is. And so, she was there to support me for my friend's death. So I knew at that moment something was wrong. Something was definitely wrong. So, I went out to dinner with friends that night with my mom. People kind of watched me, and I was a good girl. I was on good behavior because everybody was watching me. And then the next day happened. I went to work. I was still on good behavior. And then the next day was the funeral. And my friend, the one that had approached me on that Tuesday and said, Tuesday approached me and said, you don't want to live your life like this. That had called my mom. She called me that morning and she's like, are you going to be okay today? I'm like, oh, I'm going to be great. She's like, are you going to drink right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be totally in control, right? Because, a sober mind tells me I can do it, but I have no defense against that first drink. I don't know what's going to happen at this stage in my alcoholism. So I don't know if it's going to be 2 or if it's going to be 10 that's going to get me to fall over. So I was in this out of control mode. But I was also very confused, because I had been at my company for 20 years at that point. So in my mind, I was a very responsible person. I was a functioning alcoholic. So, I was fooled by that. So I did not do well that day.
Well, let me ask you this, because a lot of the guests that we've had in the past have been people that have, hit that point on their own, and they decided that they, enough is enough. But it sounds to me like you've had the displeasure of having somebody decide that for you at that moment. But I mean, looking back, I'm sure it's great. But to have somebody decide for you that this is the day that you're done, I mean, was that hard for you to deal with? Do you kind of get what I'm asking?
I do, because if I back up a little bit, I was 38 at the time. When I was 22, I had gotten a DWI. And I did a deferred prosecution where I went to treatment for 2 years. And so when I say we should all know what to do, like, aren't you supposed to just call like some phone number and help you get sober? So I did know what to do, but I really didn't know what to do. So, because when I was 22, I had that deferred, and that meant treatment outpatient 5 nights a week for, I think it was 8 weeks. And then I moved to weeklies for 4 months. And then I moved to monthlies. And so as a backstory to that, I swear they didn't have sponsors back then. I swear they don't do all the stuff that I'm doing now. Right. I was a good girl, though. I went to my meetings twice a week and I got my slip signed, because that's what I'm supposed to do, is get my slip signed. But I didn't make any connections. I showed up when the meeting started. I left when the meeting ended. I changed nothing in my life. I was 22 living with 3 other 22-year-old girls that were still pre-funking with duck farts before we would go out. So I changed nothing about my life. So that's just one of the reasons it didn't work for me. The other reason is like I said, I didn't jump into the middle of the boat. I just kind of, did my things that was minimum requirements. And one day I was bored. I was frustrated. I was waiting for my roommate because we were going to go to a party. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and waiting. And then I had no defense. I opened the fridge just like automatically and grabbed a beer and drank it after 9 months of being sober. So you pretty much call me a dry drunk at that point because I had no solution. Alcohol had been my solution. So, when my roommate was ready to go, I told her what I did. And she's like, oh, no. I said, well, we might as well stop at the Chinese restaurant and have some good, strong duck farts and go to the party. And I'll tell you, when we got there, a lot of these girls saw me and one of them said, you're drunk. I thought you didn't drink anymore. And I was like, no, I'm not. That first instance of shame, the shame of I'm a bad girl. I've done something wrong. People are talking about me. So that's what happened. But I'll tell you, for the remainder of that 2-year program, I could not put 30 days together. They put me back in weeklies. They put me back in nightlies. They put me on a medication called, starts with an A. It'll come to my mind. But I had to go to the pharmacy every day and they had to give it to me. And so if you have that medication and you drink on it, you'll get really flushed. You'll get really hot. You get really sick. But guess what? I still drink on it. I could not stay sober after that. So I had a taste 26 years prior. So, and the other leading up to this story of my intervention is we had a really tight-knit group of people that I work with. We had a softball group. We had a lot of fun times. But 4 years prior to my friend dying, I had another really good friend at work who had passed from a fatal car crash. Not her fault. No drinking and driving on her part. But somebody had crossed the center line on I-5 up in north, up by Bellingham, and had come right over, and she was in the middle lane, and the person in the left lane saw it happening, so they slammed on their brakes, and she got hit head on and died then. And same thing happened. I started gathering everybody up. Let's do all the things, make things happy. And then we laid her to rest, and then everybody started moving on. And I had not processed, I had not dealt with it, I had not grieved it. And, I've got a lot of drugs in my story where I just played around with them, never really went down any scary roads. But when everybody else was healed from Emily dying, I turned to another girl who was one of her friends who was into drugs. And she was also feeling the same way, kind of left out. Where do I go from here? And so her and I became friends. And that's what happened. So for 4 years, my life, one death caused me to start going down for 4 years. And another friend helped me get back up, is the way I look at it.
So Christine, was that your biggest struggle then, dealing with that?
I think one of my biggest struggles, I'll tell you, when I went to treatment, I knew I was an alcoholic. Because I had jokingly said when I'd be in the bars, I love to gamble. I just love to do anything to not think about me. And I would jokingly say to people I'd see, oh, you're not drinking. Are you in AA? I need to go to AA. Maybe I should get your phone number. So I felt like I was dropping the bomb everywhere, right? Like the hinting, dropping the seeds. And it wasn't my turn, right? It just wasn't my turn. Nobody picked it up. Nobody forced me. There was an incident the year before I got sober where I was so depressed, didn't know what was wrong with my life. Well, drugs and alcohol might be a factor, right? And so I took a 3-month leave of absence from work and went to my mom's house in Houston because I was really depressed. So guess what? Drugs were no longer in the picture. However, my aunt had been there and has always had an addiction to pain medication. And I started drinking. My parents had just moved. I'm helping them unpack. And I just start drinking. And there were many of these incidences in front of my family. But guess what? When I leave Texas and come back up here, the problem's also gone, right? And so my aunt had given me something because I started being in my alcoholic ways. Let's go out. Let's go find some men. Let's go do something. I want to go. I was in a complete blackout from the medication she gave me. And so when I woke up the next morning, bless my mother, she's an amazing, sweet lady, but she'll do anything for me. And I'm her sweet angel. I woke up the next morning to my mom saying, so apparently you get drunk every night. Apparently you do cocaine every night. Apparently your credit cards are maxed out again from all your gambling habits. So here's what we're going to do. I got this credit card over here that doesn't have any balance on it. It's got a no finance for 18 months. We're not going to tell your stepdad, right? Let's keep some secrets here. Because she thought she was doing the right thing for me. She goes, I'm going to pay off all your bills. And you're going to get a shrink and you're going to get a therapist while you're here. And you're going to do that. But I didn't stop drinking. And, I'm 38, right? Why should I hide drinking? Like, what's wrong with that? But I would go up to the liquor store and I would put the liquor in the dresser in my bedroom at my parents' house. And I just go up there, have a drink. Go up there and have a drink. So nothing really changed. Yes, I did therapy and yes, I got a shrink, but the minute I got home, it was snowing. Seattle was playing Green Bay in Seattle. This is 2006, and it looked like we were in Green Bay. There was snow everywhere, and nobody could come pick me up at the airport. I called my parents, drunk off my butt, and said, what do I do? And my stepdad's like, oh, that card that your mom gave you. He didn't know about her paying the bills, but he knew that I had one of their business cards. He's like, just flag down the hotel drivers and have them take you and get you a room, and we'll pay for it. So they didn't know that I was also taking the gentleman that had been sitting next to me on the plane and getting smashed with me. They also didn't know that the airline steward had said to me no when I tried to order another drink. He says, you don't want to see what it looks like when we land and you've had too much to drink. So no, you're not having more. So I went over to that hotel and I holed up for a day and a half until guess who could come get me? My old drug dealer and her boyfriend. So the game was off and going. I had 6 months before I got sober still, and it just got worse and worse and worse. This isn't about my drunk log, but I've got plenty of drunk log stories that I'm like, why didn't they say something? Why didn't someone do something? But it wasn't my turn yet. It just wasn't my turn.
What happened next as far as you turning it around, and how did that start of that journey, and how did the first 30 days go?
It was amazing. It was magical. I went off to rehab. I had to wait 6 days before I could get a bed. So I did not drink because everybody was watching me. My mom was still here watching me. And I went to rehab, and I had been there. I checked in on a Wednesday, and on Saturday, I'm working on my homework. You got to do something called the first step. And it's where you do a time, a chronological of your life from as far back as you can remember. Anything that might have affected drugs or alcohol or anything that you're seeking, right, to make you feel different, to make you not want to feel. And so by day 3 or by Saturday, so that's like almost day 4, I was like, why am I not connecting? I know I want to be here. I want to be here. And I wasn't connecting. And then on Sunday night, we had a panel, of ladies that came in to share their story. And they were in our safe zone. They were in our living room at the treatment center. I went to an all-women treatment center, and I could not wait for them to stop talking. I was crying. I raised my hand. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a drug addict. See, I knew I was an alcoholic, and I had accepted that. I just figured that's part of my life, right? I just thought it was part of my life. And you look at people and you go, how do you not know you're an alcoholic, right? Or how do you not know you have an eating disorder? I was clueless that I had an issue with drugs. I'm like, oh my God, I got an issue. And from that moment on, I was in full acceptance.
So acceptance got you there. Once you accepted that fact, which is really interesting because most people won't accept. They won't admit they have an issue. And I call myself the mainstream drunk, right? And there's so many more mainstream drunks out there that drink casually almost every night or on the weekends get sloshed, and they will never accept. No. Because they won't accept, they're kind of stuck in this numb life that they're living.
Yep. Just existing.
And we don't know when it's somebody's time, but this is a fascinating part. I think this is the kind of a turning point in kind of a recovery for anybody and everyone. And that's, I think it's interesting as the attitude adjustment program, as we call it, the first step is acceptance, right? Mm-hmm. Accepting that I have a problem with alcohol. And society
or whatever,
or whatever. Yeah, or whatever, right?
Controlling people.
Yeah, controlling people, controlling the situation, or just not accepting things as they are, but having expectations of a different outcome. And that disconnect that Chuck C. has in his book, A New Pair of Glasses, he talks about the disconnect, the dissatisfaction of life. And I think that's the root of all problems across the board. I had this thing, some friends of mine were talking about expectations. Expectations can be the root of all problems. And not accepting where you are at today is kind of at the heart of it all. So that's fascinating. So what happened next?
Yeah, well, and then to go back to your Bible, as we call it, there's a chapter in there, somebody's story. It's called Acceptance is the Answer to All of My Problems. So what happened next? Well, I had already accepted that I was an alcoholic, right? Like, no issue. I know I'm an alcoholic, drinking and driving. I was the best driver of all my friends, right? Because I had my secret little stash of something that kept me awake. And I do want to step back to my intervention, if I might, because I think this is really key. We were at the funeral. We were at the celebration of life, and I was waiting for the beer to get the keg to get ready. And so I'm just kind of wandering around. And then I tell somebody that I work with that I totally respect. I said, hey, I'm going to sit down and watch this video, because there was a video and I didn't get a chance to watch it. The video that we put together. I said, when the beer gets tapped, please bring me one. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. And finally this gal brings it over to me. And then I don't touch it. It's just sitting there. And then finally somebody comes over and says, I'm taking this from you. People don't want you to drink today. Oh, I was pissed. So talking about my reactions. Don't tell me what to do. And so I jumped up. I stormed off to the front area, which is where people were smoking. And I'm like, my best friend died? You guys are telling me I can't even mourn him with a beer? Because they all know it's not one beer, right? They all know I'm unpredictable at this point in my alcoholism. And I don't know how many stories you guys have come across where people talk about you no longer knew if it was going to be 2 or 10, right? You're just your body, the way it's absorbing it. And so one of my best guys, the husband of the gal that had called my mom, he follows me to the smoking area. What's wrong with you, right? Like, come on. And I said, what are you doing? I was so mean. I was like, why are you following me? You don't smoke. You guys are all kind of control me and stuff. Anyway, I said, you know what? I'm leaving. I don't want to be here. And so my friend's like, yay, let's all go over to so-and-so's house and go swimming, right? I'm like, I'm not going anywhere with you bitches. I'm mad at all of you. I just want my boyfriend and my mom, and I'm going home. So we go home, and as we get there, here comes 3 cars storming up. Get out of the car. You're having an intervention. Just nasty. I'm like, oh my God, calm the heck down. That I'm cool. I'm good with that. So that's where I already knew I had an issue. I said, can I go change my clothes? So got my clothes changed, went outside to do the intervention. And I'll tell you, going around the circle, everybody reading what they had come up with. My mom said, and I have sometimes this wall with my mom. She says to me, you know, I couldn't help your grandmother when she committed suicide. She goes, but I'm watching you commit suicide every day. And so that is why I'm here. And that did it for me right there. And then I had another friend who was also a coworker who had went to treatment on her own almost 2 years prior to that intervention. And she, as part of her letter, she's like, don't you remember what you said to me when I went to treatment? And I said, no. And she's like, you asked me how come I didn't take you with me. I didn't remember that. But so I was out there dropping those hints because I knew I had a problem. I just couldn't make that call.
Did you ever thank your friend for giving you the present, the gift of the intervention?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I am just forever grateful. And I'll tell you, a couple years after I got sober, her stepdaughters needed help. And I was there to help them. They called me up. Another reason why I live out loud. Of course, they knew I was in recovery, but she was there for my 1-year celebration, even though she's not in recovery. She's been a milestone throughout. She didn't drink around me. I'm like, you know, there came a point in time where I told my friends, okay, I think I'm good, right? But she wasn't one of those friends that even asked me, is it okay if I drink? She just didn't. We changed what we did. Instead of going out to a bar after work and having happy hour, we went to the mall and went shopping and had coffee. You know, I just changed what I did. When
you turned the corner and you started to do this, tell me about what they call in the attitude adjustment program, God shots, and tell me about what was happening in your life emotionally, spiritually. When did those lights start to come on?
They came on pretty soon, right? Because I had gotten into acceptance. So at that point, so that was day 4 of treatment, I was all in. And let me just tell you, some are sicker than most. I had a lot of homework packets I had to do while I was in treatment because I've had a lot of issues. Have y'all talked about cross addictions in this?
We haven't, but let's talk about it.
I didn't disclose that when I was trying to be sober, when I was 22, I cross addicted. I learned to gamble. They had just opened card rooms up in Seattle. And I learned to puke. I became bulimic. And so it's just one of those things. And you see it so often with people who get sober. They pick up something else. If they don't do the work, those things can happen. My husband has a phrase, and I just love it. And he says, you know, if you don't do the steps, if you don't do the work inside, the same man or woman will drink again. You got to do the work. You got to do the work.
So tell us about the work. Describe the work in a little bit, and then tell us what you got out of it.
I was a very slow person. I did not even do the major hardest piece of work until the night before I turned 3 years. All I could do was just hold on. I started going to see a psychiatrist for outside issues. I went to my meetings. I started connecting with a core group of girls from the treatment center, and we would have once a month potlucks and food. I was still doing outpatient. But you know, the biggest turning point for me is I got involved. They did not have an alumni association when I got sober. They used to because, you know, how many people want to be part of an alumni association when it comes to a treatment center, right? It's hard to get people to come back.
Yeah. Oh, I'll bet. Christine, so how's your life now?
Amazing. and hard. I went to service. Service is the key for me. It's amazing. It's hard, but guess what? I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget. Recovery is not linear. It's not linear. There are ebb and flows. It goes up, it goes down. Just because you take away your ism, I'm still left with me, right? I sponsor women. I help other people with the attitude adjustment program. When I'm not, I'm really cranky. But how is my life today? Life still happens, whether I drink or not. But every day I wake up with untreated alcoholism. And if I don't do what I need to do, which get out of my own way, right? Clean house, help others, and give back.
So that's basically your motto. Your biggest tool in the tool chest is clean house, help others,
and give back.
And give back.
You cannot just stay where you're at. You either are working on your recovery or you're working on your relapse. Period. Very simple. Very simple program.
How do you want to be known?
I want to be known as that 95% person that I usually am, which is happy, and the glass is always full, right? Because when I get into that other 5% of me, it's not very pretty. And I beat myself up. But I'll tell you what, you made a comment about motto. I've been using the same signature since I got sober. And that is, so this is what I want to be known by. Be where your feet are. Now is all we get. Period. I think I created that motto for myself because I've always been a distracting person. If I can do this, then I don't have to feel. If I can do that, if I can fix you or work on you or change you, then I don't have to look at me. Now is all we get.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall Rise Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall Rise Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.